Welcome to True Stories 102, where real-life tales captivate and inspire. Tonight, we unravel the haunting journey of Ethan Brooks, a seasoned truck driver who stumbles upon a mysterious, abandoned girl on a desolate American highway. During a fierce snowstorm, what he discovers next not only changes his life, but also uncovers dark secrets lurking in the shadows. As Ethan races against time to save her, he finds himself entangled in a web of suspense, danger, and unexpected alliances. Will he be able to protect her from the sinister forces that seek to keep her hidden? Stay with us as we delve deeper into this gripping story of courage, compassion, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Make sure to watch until the very end. You won't want to miss a single moment of this intense and emotional narrative. If you're moved by touching true stories, leave a comment with the number 1. If you'd like us to share more stories like this, comment with the number 2. And don't forget to add your heartfelt message. God is always by the side to protect those with compassionate hearts, and all brothers and sisters, amen. Join our community of story enthusiasts and let's honor the brave souls who inspire us every day. Hit the subscribe button now and turn on notifications so you never miss a powerful story from True Stories 102. Dive into the mystery, feel the emotion, and be part of our journey as we explore the incredible true stories that shape our world. Without keeping you waiting any longer, let's start the emotional journey right now. Chapter 1. The Unexpected Discovery. It was a frigid, unforgiving night. The kind that seeped through every crack and crevice, chilling even the most resilient soul. Ethan Brooks, a seasoned trucker who had spent the majority of his life navigating lonely highways across the vast expanses of America, wasn't prepared for what awaited him on a secluded stretch of Interstate 89 in the middle of nowhere. Against the backdrop of freshly fallen snow lay a delicate, small figure, a young girl no older than 9, abandoned and still. Yet, something about her presence didn't quite add up. What Ethan discovered next would irrevocably alter the course of his life. If you're as intrigued as I am, make sure to subscribe to True Stories 102 and share in the comments where you're watching from. This story is just beginning, and every moment is crucial. Ethan adjusted his rearview mirror, his eyes shifting between the endless stretch of highway ahead and the brewing snowstorm trailing behind him. Fear and hesitation were foreign to him, but tonight felt different. The silence on this segment of Route 89 was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of his truck's engine. Suddenly, his headlights illuminated something unusual near the roadside. At first, he assumed it was an animal, perhaps a deer. But as he slowed down and approached, his stomach twisted in unease. It wasn't an animal. Slamming the brakes, Ethan jumped out of the cab, his boots crunching against the icy ground. There, half buried in the snow, was the small body of a girl wearing a thin blue jacket utterly inadequate for the biting cold. Her brown hair, tangled and damp, framed a face as pale as the snow beneath her. "Oh God," Ethan muttered, his breath visible in the frosty air. He crouched beside her, pressing trembling fingers to her neck. A faint pulse responded, weak but steady. "Hang on, sweetheart," he whispered. "I've got you." As he lifted her frail body, he noticed her swollen abdomen. It was unnatural, almost grotesque for a child her age. For a moment, Ethan's mind raced through unsettling possibilities. Was she sick, injured? He didn't have time to ponder. Carefully, he placed her in the passenger seat of his truck and cranked up the heat. She stirred slightly, a soft whimper escaping her lips. "You're going to be okay," Ethan reassured her, though he wasn't sure if he was speaking to her or himself. The nearest hospital was over 60 miles away, and the storm was intensifying. Snowflakes began to batter the windshield like tiny daggers, but Ethan kept his eyes on the road. Every minute counted as he drove. Fragments of questions swirled in his mind. Who was she? Why was she alone out here? And most hauntingly, who would abandon a child to die in the freezing cold? His thoughts were interrupted by the faint sound of a police scanner crackling to life on his dashboard. He grabbed the receiver. "This is Officer Jenkins, southbound on Route 89. We've got an emergency. Found a little girl, possibly 9 years old, unconscious, heading to Lincoln Memorial Hospital in Jackson." There was a pause before the dispatcher's voice came through, calm but urgent. "Copy that, Officer Jenkins. We'll notify the hospital and send units your way." Ethan exhaled, gripping the wheel tighter. He glanced at the girl, who now rested against the seat. Her face was still ashen, but her breathing was steady. "You just hang in there, kid," he said softly. The journey was treacherous. The snowstorm had transformed the highway into a labyrinth of white visibility nearly zero. Ethan's hands ached from clutching the wheel so tightly, but he didn't dare slow down. Finally, the lights of Lincoln Memorial Hospital came into view, a beacon of hope against the endless night. Ethan pulled into the emergency bay, honking the horn to alert the staff. A team of doctors and nurses rushed out, guiding the truck. Ethan climbed out, breath hitching as he carried the girl into their waiting arms. "She's been unconscious since I found her," he explained quickly. "Her belly. There's something wrong with her. Please, just help her." The staff nodded, wheeling her inside without hesitation. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, as the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. A voice called out, breaking his daze. A tall, no-nonsense woman in a sheriff's uniform approached him. Her name tag read Sheriff Thompson. "Can I have a word with you?" she asked, her tone leaving no room for refusal. Ethan nodded, running a hand through his graying hair. "Of course." As they stepped aside, Sheriff Thompson fixed him with a piercing gaze. "Start from the beginning. How did you find her?" Ethan recounted every detail, from spotting her on the roadside to the desperate drive to the hospital. But as he spoke, he could see doubt creeping into her expression. "Why were you out there alone tonight?" she asked. "I'm a truck driver," Ethan replied, trying to keep his frustration in check. "That's my route. I just happened to see her." Thompson crossed her arms. "It's awfully convenient, don't you think? A lone trucker finding a child in the middle of nowhere." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Are you saying I had something to do with this?" "I'm saying we need to investigate every angle." Thompson shot back before he could respond. A nurse appeared at the door. "Sheriff, you're needed inside." Thompson gave Ethan one last scrutinizing look before following the nurse. Ethan leaned against his truck, exhaling a shaky breath. He had done the right thing, he was sure of it. But why did it feel like he was the one on trial? Chapter 2. Under suspicion, inside the hospital, the girl remained unconscious. Her swollen belly was a mystery that puzzled even the most experienced doctor. Sheriff Thompson watched from the observation window, her mind racing with questions of her own. Who was this girl, and more importantly, who had left her out there to die? The fluorescent lights of Lincoln Memorial buzzed faintly, casting a pale glow over the sterile halls. Ethan sat on a hard plastic chair in the waiting area, his foot tapping nervously against the linoleum floor. Every passing nurse or doctor sent a jolt of hope through him, only to be dashed when they walked by without sparing him a glance. He was still reeling from Sheriff Thompson's interrogation. It wasn't just her words, but the way she looked at him, as if she already had him pegged as a criminal. Ethan wasn't a saint, but he sure as hell wasn't someone who'd harm a child. Yet here he was under a cloud of suspicion simply for trying to do the right thing. The doors to the emergency ward swung open, and Thompson emerged with a clipboard in hand. She glanced at Ethan, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Brooks," she began, her voice crisp and professional, "we need you to stay here for a while. There's more to this case that we need to uncover." Ethan's heart sank. "I just wanted to help," he replied softly. "I didn't mean any harm." Thompson nodded, jotting down notes on her clipboard. "We appreciate your assistance, but we have to ensure there's no foul play involved. Please, remain here." and we'll keep you updated." As she walked away, Ethan felt a mixture of frustration and confusion. He had acted out of compassion, yet now he felt like a suspect. Determined to clear his name and find out more about the mysterious girl, he decided to gather his thoughts and prepare for whatever was to come next. Chapter 3. A race against time. The snowstorm showed no signs of abating as Ethan waited, his mind racing with questions and fears. The hospital seemed more like a cold clinical place than a sanctuary of healing. Hours passed, each one stretching longer than the last. Finally, Dr. Laura Carter, the head physician, approached him. "Mr. Brooks?" she asked gently. "May I speak with you?" Ethan nodded, standing up from his chair. "Yes, of course." Dr. Carter led him to a quiet corner of the waiting area. "We've stabilized the girl, but there's still a lot we don't understand about her condition. Her abdominal swelling is unusual, and it's not responding to standard treatments." Ethan's concern deepened. "Is she going to be okay?" "We're doing everything we can," Dr. Carter assured him. "But we need more time and more tests to determine the exact cause of her condition." Before Ethan could ask any more questions, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen. It was a message from his sister Diane. "Heard about the storm? You okay?" He hesitated before typing back. "Fine. Just dealing with something. I'll call later." He wasn't ready to explain the entire situation just yet. As he pocketed his phone, the faint sound of footsteps echoed through the hallways. He turned to see Dr. Carter approaching him again. "Mr. Brooks," she said softly, "we need your help. There's something you need to know about her condition." Ethan leaned in, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Dr. Carter hesitated for a moment before speaking. "We believe there may have been external factors affecting her health. It's as if something or someone was influencing her physiological state." Ethan's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Before she could elaborate, the hospital's main doors swung open, and Sheriff Thompson reappeared, her expression even more serious. "Mr. Brooks," she began, "we've reviewed your account and some of the medical data. We need you to stay involved in this investigation. There are elements we haven't uncovered yet." Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "What do you need me to do?" Thompson met his gaze steadily. "We need you to help us understand how this happened and who might be responsible. Your perspective as a truck driver who spends so much time on the road is valuable." Ethan nodded slowly, realizing the gravity of the situation. "All right, I'll do whatever I can to help." As he left the conversation, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, determined to uncover the truth behind the mysterious girl's condition and the reasons for her abandonment. Ethan knew he was embarking on a journey that would test his courage and resilience like never before. Chapter 4. Unveiling Secrets. Ethan Brooks felt the weight of Sheriff Thompson's requests settle heavily on his shoulders as she walked away. He glanced around the bustling hospital, noticing the seamless coordination of medical staff and the stark contrast between their urgent work and the lingering mystery surrounding the young girl he had found. Determined to clear his name and uncover the truth behind the girl's condition, Ethan knew he had to take proactive steps. As Dr. Laura Carter approached him again, Ethan steeled himself for what was to come. "Dr. Carter," he began, "what exactly do you mean by external factors affecting her health?" Dr. Carter sighed, her expression betraying a mix of concern and uncertainty. "We've run several preliminary tests, and while there's no immediate cause we can identify, there's evidence suggesting that her body is reacting to something beyond a natural infection or injury. It's almost as if her physiology is being manipulated." Ethan frowned, trying to piece together the information. "Are you saying someone tampered with her?" "It's a possibility we can't ignore," Dr. Carter replied. "We've seen similar cases before, but they're rare and often tied to more significant incidents. We need to delve deeper into her background and circumstances leading up to her being found on the roadside. Before Ethan could respond, Sheriff Thompson returned, her demeanor more composed but still exuding authority. Dr. Carter, do you have any leads on what might have caused her condition? Dr. Carter nodded slowly. We're exploring all avenues, including potential exposure to environmental toxins, biological agents, or even psychological trauma that could manifest physically. However, given her age and the lack of prior medical history, it's challenging to pinpoint the exact cause without more information. Ethan took a deep breath, realizing the complexity of the situation. Is there anything I can do to help? Maybe provide more details about my journey or anything unusual I noticed that night? Sheriff Thompson considered his offer before responding. Any information you can provide would be valuable. Start by recounting your entire trip leading up to the discovery. Even the smallest detail could be crucial. Ethan nodded, sitting down again as he began to recount his journey in meticulous detail. He described the isolated stretch of highway, the unexpected snowstorm, and the exact moment he spotted the girl. He mentioned the state of the weather, the limited visibility, and the challenges he faced while trying to assist her. As I was driving, the storm was getting worse, Ethan explained. Visibility was dropping rapidly. When I saw her, she seemed almost lifeless, but something didn't feel right. Her swollen abdomen. It wasn't consistent with a simple injury or dehydration. It was like her body was fighting something internally. Sheriff Thompson listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes. Did you notice anything unusual about her appearance or behavior before you found her? Any signs of struggle or distress? Ethan shook his head. No signs of a struggle. She was just lying there, barely moving. It was eerily quiet, like she was waiting for something or someone. Dr. Carter interjected. Did you hear anything out of the ordinary? Any sounds or disturbances in the area? Ethan thought back, trying to recall every moment. There was a faint humming sound, almost like machinery in the distance. But it was hard to pinpoint. Maybe just the wind and the storm playing tricks on my ears. Sheriff Thompson exchanged a glance with Dr. Carter. A humming sound in such a secluded area could indicate machinery or equipment nearby. We'll need to investigate that possibility. As Ethan finished his account, Sheriff Thompson leaned forward. Ethan, based on your description, it's possible that the girl was exposed to some form of external influence or environment that affected her health. We need to explore all potential factors, including any nearby industrial activities, wildlife disturbances, or even human interference. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Are you suggesting this could be something deliberate? Like someone wanted her up there? Dr. Carter hesitated before responding. It's too early to jump to conclusions, but we can't rule out any possibilities. We'll be conducting a more thorough investigation, including environmental assessments and interviews with local residents who might have witnessed anything unusual. Sheriff Thompson stood up, signaling the end of their discussion. We will keep you updated on any developments. In the meantime, please remain available for any further questions or assistance you might need to provide. As she left, Ethan felt a surge of determination. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this situation than met the eye. The girl's condition was a puzzle he was determined to solve, not just to clear his name, but to ensure no one else fell victim to whatever was at play. He decided to take matters into his own hands. After ensuring the girl was receiving the best possible care, Ethan approached Dr. Carter. Is there anything I can do to help with the investigation? Maybe I can look into recent reports or activities along Route 89. Dr. Carter appreciated his willingness. That's a good idea. Anything you can find about unusual activities or incidents in the area could provide valuable clues. Be cautious, though. If there's something more sinister involved, it's best to let us handle the direct investigation. Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He returned to his truck, the storm still raging outside, and began reaching out to his network of contacts. As a trucker, he had connections with other drivers, logistics companies, and even local businesses along his routes. He started by contacting a few fellow truckers who might have been on similar routes recently. One by one, he made calls. asking about any strange occurrences or unusual sights along Route 89 in the past few weeks. Most reported nothing out of the ordinary, attributing any odd sounds to natural phenomena or equipment malfunctions. However, one name stood out. Marcus Hayes, a long-haul driver who had recently taken a detour around a newly constructed industrial site near the highway. Curious, Ethan decided to track down Marcus. After a few days of searching, he found him at a truck stop in a nearby town. Approaching cautiously, Ethan introduced himself and explained the situation. "Marcus, I need your help. Have you noticed anything strange around Route 89 recently? Any unusual machinery, noises, or activities?" Marcus looked puzzled for a moment before recalling something. "Now that you mention it, there was some odd activity near the old landfill site. They were running some heavy machinery late at night, but no one knows what it was for. It seemed off, but I didn't think much of it at the time." Ethan's heart raced. "The old landfill site? That's not too far from where I found the girl. Did you see anyone there or anything specific?" Marcus shook his head. "I saw workers setting up some large equipment, but it was all under wraps. They were keeping to themselves, not really talking to anyone. It was like a secret project." Thanking Marcus, Ethan headed back to the hospital to relay this new information to Sheriff Thompson and Dr. Carter. As he walked through the sterile corridors, he felt a mix of hope and apprehension. If the old landfill site was involved, it could explain the strange humming sounds and the girl's mysterious condition. In the following days, the investigation intensified. Sheriff Thompson coordinated with environmental experts to assess the landfill site, while Dr. Carter delved deeper into the girl's medical records and possible exposures. Ethan continued his own inquiries, determined to uncover every possible lead. One evening, as Ethan was poring over maps and recent construction permits, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Diane, his sister. "Hope everything's okay. Let me know if you need anything." He quickly typed back, "I'm doing all right. Just trying to piece together some clues." Feeling a bit reassured, he returned his focus to the case. He decided to visit the old landfill site himself, hoping to gather first-hand information. With the storm still a lingering threat, he prepared for a long drive, knowing that time was of the essence. As dawn broke, Ethan set off towards the landfill site. The area was deserted, with the remnants of old waste piles and scattered debris hinting at years of neglect. The heavy machinery he had heard about was still there, but now it was silent, abandoned as if left in haste. Approaching cautiously, Ethan noticed signs of recent activity. Fresh footprints in the mud, new tire tracks, and freshly disturbed ground. His gut told him he was getting closer to the truth. He began searching for any workers or remaining traces of the secret project. After hours of searching, he stumbled upon a small, makeshift office tucked away behind a cluster of dumpsters. Inside, he found logs of recent activities, notes about experimental treatments, and references to a Project Helix. One document in particular caught his eye. A detailed report on a synthetic serum designed to enhance human resilience in extreme conditions. Ethan's mind raced. Could this serum be related to the girl's condition? Had someone used it on her without proper authorization? Or was it part of a larger, more sinister plan? Determined to find answers, he took photos of the documents and decided to bring them back to the hospital. As he was about to leave, he heard footsteps approaching. Panic surged through him as he turned to see two men in lab coats entering the office. "Hey, what are you doing here?" one of them demanded, eyeing Ethan suspiciously. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. "I could ask you the same thing. I'm trying to understand what happened to this girl." "Your project? It had something to do with her?" The men exchanged a glance before one of them stepped forward. "Project Helix is confidential. You need to leave now." Before Ethan could respond, one of the men lunged at him, grabbing his arm tightly. "I suggest you forget what you've seen and go back to your truck." Ethan struggled to break free, but the grip was firm, "I can't just walk away," he insisted. "She's a child. Something happened to her because of whatever you're doing here." The other man stepped up, his expression hardening. "We don't have time for this. Move along." With a final push, Ethan was forced out of the office and back onto the cold, damp ground. He scrambled to his feet, his mind racing for a way to escape. As he turned to run, he heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Sheriff Thompson's squad cars arriving, alerted by a nearby patrol. Breathing heavily, Ethan didn't stop running until he reached the safety of his truck. He revved the engine and sped away, not daring to look back. Once safe, he quickly reviewed the photos he had taken, trying to make sense of the fragmented information. "Project Helix," he muttered to himself. What exactly were they trying to achieve? Ethan knew he had to share this discovery with Sheriff Thompson and Dr. Carter immediately. He reached out to them, setting up a meeting to present the evidence he had gathered. As he waited for their response, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was getting dangerously close to uncovering something far bigger than he had ever imagined. Later that afternoon, Sheriff Thompson arrived at his truck, her expression a mix of relief and urgency. "Ethan, we need to talk. What you found at the landfill, it's more significant than we thought." Ethan handed her the photos. "I think this is connected to her condition. Project Helix. It looks like an experimental serum designed to enhance human resilience. Maybe they were testing it on her or something went wrong." Sheriff Thompson scrutinized the documents, her brow furrowing deeper with each passing second. If this serum was used on her without proper oversight, it could explain her symptoms. But why was this project kept so secret? Dr. Carter joined them, looking over the evidence. "There's a lot we don't know about Project Helix. Based on these documents, it seems they were conducting unauthorized experiments. We need to find out who is behind this and why." Ethan felt a surge of determination. "We have to stop them before they do something worse." Sheriff Thompson nodded firmly. "Agreed. We'll need to gather more evidence and identify the key players involved. Ethan, your first-hand account and access to the area will be invaluable. We'll also need to secure the location to prevent any further tampering." As they devised a plan, the pieces of the puzzle began to align. The humming sounds, the secretive machinery, and now the evidence of an experimental project, all pointed towards a hidden agenda that endangered innocent lives. Ethan realized that his simple act of compassion had thrust him into the middle of a dangerous investigation. But he was resolute in his mission to uncover the truth and bring those responsible to justice. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Sheriff Thompson coordinated with federal agencies to expand the investigation, while Dr. Carter and her team continued to monitor the girl's condition, looking for any signs of improvement or further deterioration. Ethan worked tirelessly, mapping out the connections between the various elements of the case, and reaching out to anyone who might have information about Project Helix. One evening, as he was sifting through old newspaper archives, Ethan stumbled upon a story about a defunct biotech company that had previously been linked to controversial experiments. The company, Helix Biosolutions, had shut down abruptly after allegations of unethical practices surfaced. But rumors persisted that they had continued their work underground. Ethan's heart raced. This could be it. Helix Biosolutions. Maybe they didn't entirely shut down. He decided to visit the last known address of the company, a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of town. The building was old and decrepit, its windows boarded up and the surrounding area overgrown with weeds. As he approached, he noticed faint signs of recent activity, fresh tire tracks leading to a side entrance, and the sound of muffled voices coming from within. Ethan approached cautiously, peering through a crack in the boarded window. Inside, he saw a group of people huddled around a large table, discussing plans and reviewing documents similar to the ones he had found. It was clear that Helix Biosolutions had not entirely ceased operations. Instead, they had evolved into something more clandestine. Taking a deep breath, Ethan knew he had to act fast. He retrieved his phone and sent a message to Sheriff Thompson with the location and a description of what he had seen. "I'm at the old Helix warehouse. It looks like they're still active." Minutes later, a team of officers arrived, led by Sheriff Thompson herself. They approached the warehouse with caution, weapons drawn, and communication devices ready. Ethan watched anxiously as they moved in, the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. Inside the warehouse, the tension was palpable. The officers swiftly moved to apprehend the individuals involved, while Ethan stayed at a safe distance, his mind racing with questions and concerns for the girl's fate. As the dust settled, Sheriff Thompson emerged, holding one of the leaders of the operation, a man named Dr. Adrian Blackwood, a former executive at Helix Biosolutions known for his ruthless pursuit of scientific breakthroughs. Dr. Blackwood glared at Ethan, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and fear. "You had no right interfering in our work," he spat. "You don't understand the potential of what we're doing." Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "I understand enough to know that experimenting on children without consent is wrong. You're endangering lives." Sheriff Thompson intervened, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Dr. Blackwood, you're under arrest for unauthorized human experimentation, endangerment, and multiple other charges. You're not getting away with this." As the officers secured Dr. Blackwood and his associates, Ethan felt a sense of relief mixed with lingering anxiety. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the girl's condition remained a mystery. They needed to ensure she received the proper care, and that no further harm would come her way. Back at the hospital, Dr. Carter reviewed the latest test results, discovering that traces of the synthetic serum were still present in the girl's system. "It appears the serum is metabolizing differently in her body than we anticipated. We're seeing some regenerative properties, but also severe side effects that we're still trying to understand." Sheriff Thompson approached the room, a look of concern etched on her face. "What does this mean for her?" Dr. Carter took a deep breath. "It means we have a long road ahead. The serum has the potential to save lives, but without proper regulation and testing, it can also cause significant harm. We need to continue monitoring her closely and see how her body responds over time." Ethan felt a flicker of hope. "Is there a chance she could recover fully?" Dr. Carter offered a cautious smile. "It's possible, but we need more time to observe her progress. We'll do everything we can to help her recover." As days turned into weeks, the girl's condition began to show signs of improvement. Her vitals stabilized, and the swelling in her abdomen gradually reduced. The medical team continued to study the effects of the synthetic serum, uncovering more about its properties and potential applications. Ethan remained a constant presence at the hospital, assisting Sheriff Thompson and Dr. Carter in piecing together the remnants of Project Helix. They uncovered that the serum was part of a larger initiative aimed at enhancing human resilience in extreme environments, an ambitious project that had spiraled out of control when ethical boundaries were crossed. Through interviews with former employees and examination of Helix Biosolutions records, they discovered that Dr. Blackwood had been driven by a personal tragedy, a child he had lost years ago. His obsession with saving lives had led him down a dark path, believing that the ends justified the means. As the truth unraveled, Ethan realized the profound impact of their work. They weren't just stopping a rogue operation. They were preventing a potential catastrophe that could have affected countless lives. One evening, as Ethan was leaving the hospital, he received a call from his sister, Diane. "Ethan, I've been thinking about what you're going through. Maybe you should take a break, spend some time away from all this." Ethan paused, considering her words. "I can't just walk away, Diane. There's still so much to uncover. And that girl, I need to make sure she's okay." Diane's voice softened. "I understand, but you need to take care of yourself too. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help." Ethan smiled, grateful for her support. "Thanks, Diane. I appreciate it. As he hung up the phone, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was still fraught with challenges, but he was no longer alone. With Sheriff Thompson and Dr. Carter by his side, he was determined to see the investigation through to the end, ensuring that the lessons learned from Project Helix would prevent future tragedies.